Background and context. Following the release of journalist and political commentator Candace Owens' documentary series titled Bride of Charlie, a wide-ranging and apparently coordinated campaign of attacks was launched against Owens and numerous individuals within her professional network. The attacks were not limited to public criticism. They extended into targeted harassment, including the public dissemination of sensitive personal information belonging to those close to her. Photographs of her manager's infant daughter, her makeup artist, and various family members were posted across social media platforms without consent. In addition, her producer received a significant volume of threatening voicemail messages, suggesting that the intent was not merely to discredit Owens professionally, but to intimidate her and those around her into silence. The timing of these attacks, occurring almost immediately upon the release of the documentary, strongly implies that the response was premeditated rather than organic. This pattern of behavior raises fundamental questions about the motivations of those behind it, and about what precisely in Owens' investigation they were so determined to suppress. The coordinated smear campaign. A thorough review of the available evidence makes it difficult to characterize the attacks on Candace Owens as anything other than a deliberately organized smear operation. Across multiple social media platforms, a large number of accounts began using near-identical language to describe Owens, most notably labeling her as demonic, within a remarkably short window of time. The uniformity of this language, combined with the speed of its propagation, is inconsistent with independent, spontaneous criticism, and instead points strongly towards centralized coordination. High-profile conservative media personality Dan Bongino amplified this narrative through his broadcast platform, employing the same demonic framing to discredit Owens and making statements that a number of observers described as an incitement to physical violence against her. Ben Shapiro similarly entered the fray, characterizing Owens on multiple occasions as evil, vile, and describing her in language widely regarded as inflammatory and disproportionate to any legitimate journalistic disagreement. Of particular significant evidential weight is a leaked internal email, allegedly originating within the organizational structure of Turning Point USA, TPUSA. The email purportedly instructed staff and affiliated individuals to begin characterizing Owens using the terms evil and demonic, and to push this framing aggressively across social media. The near-simultaneous appearance of this specific language across multiple platforms and among multiple prominent figures, mirroring what the leaked email allegedly directed, presents a compelling, if not conclusive, case that these attacks were centrally orchestrated rather than independently conceived. Alleged financial incentives to discredit Owens. Beyond the use of existing media platforms and organizational infrastructure, reports have emerged suggesting that financial resources were deployed to extend the reach of the smear campaign. According to multiple sources, Erika Kirk, the widow of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, allegedly authorized and personally financed a paid influencer campaign designed to amplify attacks on Owens and ensure that the demonic characterization reached as wide an audience as possible. One of the more notable disclosures came from Matt Wallace, a social media influencer on the platform X with a following exceeding 2 million users. Wallace publicly stated that he had been approached and offered a financial payment to publicly speak negatively about Owens, an offer he chose to decline and subsequently disclosed to his audience. His disclosure was followed by similar admissions from other influencers, several of whom confirmed they had received comparable offers. The willingness of multiple individuals to come forward and acknowledge these approaches lends considerable credibility to the claim that a funded, organized influence operation was underway. The critical question this raises is a straightforward one. If Owens' documentary was, as her critics claimed, nothing more than baseless conspiracy-mongering, why would any party invest financial resources in suppressing it? The deployment of paid influencers to attack Owens, rather than simply allowing her claims to be dismissed on their merits, suggests a degree of institutional panic that is difficult to reconcile with the public posture of indifference her opponents sought to project. Documentary performance and public response. Whatever the intentions of those who sought to undermine Bride of Charlie before it could gain traction, the outcome was the precise opposite of what they appeared to have hoped for. The documentary series achieved remarkable viewership figures within an extremely short period of its release. Episode 1 alone attracted approximately 5 million views, while Episode 2 surpassed 2 million within days of its release, bringing the combined total to approximately 7.3 million views within the first 48 hours, a figure that places it among the most widely viewed independent documentary content of its kind. The suppression campaign, rather than dampening public interest in Owens' investigation, served as a significant amplifier. Audiences who might never have encountered the series were drawn to it precisely because of the intensity and apparent desperation of the opposition it generated. The public, it seems, drew its own conclusions from the spectacle of coordinated attacks, doxing attempts, and paid smear operations directed at a journalist, and responded by watching her work in record numbers. In this respect, the campaign to silence Owens not only failed in its immediate objective, but actively accelerated the very outcome it was designed to prevent. Key investigative findings: the missing year. At the heart of Owens' investigative series lies a deceptively simple question: where was Erika Kirk in 2008? According to Owens' research, following Erika Kirk's relinquishment of her pound crown in 2007, her documented public presence effectively vanishes for a period of approximately 8 months. Unlike many public figures who experience gaps in coverage simply due to a reduced public profile, Kirk's absence from verifiable records during this period appears to be notably comprehensive. In a video interview that has since been deleted from public platforms, Kirk herself addressed this period, confirming that she had withdrawn entirely from public life, confining herself largely to her home and seeing virtually no one outside of immediate family and her pastor's wife. She framed the experience in spiritual terms, describing it as a period of deliberate isolation and ego-stripping. While such an explanation is not inherently plausible, it raises an important practical question. Kirk was an active college student at the time. A full academic year of near total social withdrawal with no apparent interruption to her enrollment is an unusual circumstance that Owens argues has not been adequately explained. Owens and a number of commentators who have reviewed the available evidence have speculated that this period may have involved structured training of some undisclosed nature, possibly connected to the intelligence or defense-adjacent networks, as detailed below, appear in the broader background of the Kirk family's professional associations. It must be emphasized that this remains speculative. No direct evidence has been publicly produced to confirm what, if anything, occurred during this period beyond what Kirk herself has acknowledged. Connections to the defense and intelligence sectors. A significant dimension of Owens' investigation concerns the professional activities of Lori France, Erika Kirk's lover, whose business portfolio raises questions about the broader context in which the Kirk family operates. France is identified as the principal of multiple companies, including E3 Tech, AZTE, and G-Tech, whose stated areas of operation, as described on their respective websites, span a notably wide range of defense and technology-adjacent domains. These include border security and protection systems, advanced semiconductor development, disaster prediction technology, dual-fuel vehicle engineering, and research conducted in partnership with NASA on Mars-related projects. Of particular relevance is the connection between France's companies and Raytheon, the major U.S. defense contractor with which they have held documented contracts. Raytheon partnered with Israel's Raytheon Advanced Defense Systems in the development of the Iron Dome, Israel's missile defense infrastructure, the operational core of which depends on the same category of advanced semiconductor technology that France's companies claim expertise in. It bears emphasis that no direct contractual relationship between France's firms and Raytheon has been established in the public record. Her documented association is with Raytheon. Nevertheless, the overlapping technical domains and the broader defense ecosystem in which her companies appear to operate form a contextual backdrop that Owens argues is relevant to understanding the full picture. The Romanian Angels Initiative and Colonel Busher. Following her reemergence from the unexplained period of seclusion in 2008, one of Erika Kirk's earliest documented public activities was her involvement in the Romanian Angels Initiative, a charitable program focused on the welfare of orphan children in Romania, operated in formal partnership with the United States Army and Marine Corps. The initiative grew out of the Everyday Heroes Foundation, a nonprofit organization established in Arizona under the name of Lori France. The program's primary military liaison was then Colonel Otto Busher, a U.S. Army officer who served as the operational point of contact for the initiative's activities in Romania. Subsequent to his involvement with the program, Colonel Busher was accused of operating an illicit enterprise involving the exploitation of minors, a development that Owens has identified as a matter of serious concern, given the program's stated focus on vulnerable children and its direct institutional affiliation with American military personnel. Owens has been careful to note that Busher's alleged conduct does not in itself implicate Kirk or France in any wrongdoing. However, she argues that the association warrants rigorous scrutiny, particularly in light of the other connections her investigation has surfaced. Financial oversight concerns at Turning Point USA. The scope of Owens' investigative series extends beyond the personal history of Erika Kirk to encompass the institutional practices of Turning Point USA as an organization. TPUSA has grown into one of the most well-funded conservative organizations in the United States, raising hundreds of millions of dollars in donations. As a registered nonprofit entity, it is exempt from federal income tax, meaning that a substantial portion of its financial activity occurs outside the scrutiny applied to for-profit corporations, and that the precise allocation of donor funds is not subject to the same level of public accountability. Owens has alleged that Charlie Kirk himself, prior to his death, had expressed concerns about the financial management of the organization he founded, and had sought to initiate a formal and comprehensive audit of its accounts. If accurate, this would suggest that questions about fiscal transparency within TPUSA are not merely the product of external speculation, but reflect concerns that existed at the highest levels of the organization's own leadership. The full financial picture of TPUSA and the disposition of its donor funds, therefore, represents, in Owens' assessment, a dimension of the story with implications that extend well beyond any single individual. Conclusion. Taken in totality, the evidence assembled in this report points toward a picture that is difficult to dismiss as coincidental. The coordinated deployment of identical language across multiple platforms, the alleged financing of a paid influencer smear campaign, the aggressive attempts to dox and intimidate Owens and her associates, and the institutional weight brought to bear against a single journalist documentary series All of this suggests that the subjects of Owens' investigation perceived her work as a genuinely serious threat to interests they were willing to go to considerable lengths to protect. The questions Owens has raised about Erika Kirk's undocumented period of absence in 2008, about the defense and intelligence connections in the Kirk family's background, about the Romanian Angels Initiative and its associations, and about the financial practices of Turning Point USA, remain as of the time of this writing unanswered in any satisfactory public forum. Whether the specific allegations can ultimately be substantiated through verifiable evidence is a question that the ongoing investigation has yet to definitively resolve. What can be stated with confidence is that the response to Bride of Charlie has itself become a significant part of the story. The organized, well-resourced, and evidently premeditated effort to discredit Owens before her documentary could reach a broad audience has, in the judgment of many observers, served to validate rather than undermine the seriousness of her inquiry. In attempting to silence her, those opposed to her investigation may have done more to advance public interest in her findings than any promotional effort could have achieved.